Sorry, guys, I'm just waking up. I have allergies and I had a little cold last week, so I'm super congested in the morning, so I apologize. There's a lot of sounds. Clear that throat out. So 6 hours ago, I didn't get much sleep. We started talking about Noah's flood and the waters flooded the earth for 150 days. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and the livestock that were with him in the ark. And he sent a wind over to the earth, and the waters receded. Now the springs of the deep and the floodgates of the heaven had been closed, and the rain had stopped falling from the sky. The water receded steadily from the earth. At the end of the 150 days of water had gone down, and on the 17th day of the 7th month, excuse me, the ark came to rest on Mount of Ararat. So, I don't know if you could see that, but it landed somewhere around here. The waters continued to recede until the 10th month, and the first day of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains became visible. After 40 days, Noah opened a window he had made in the ark and sent out a raven, and it kept flying back and forth until the water had dried up from the earth. Then he sent out a dove to see if the water had receded from the surface of the ground. But the dove could find nowhere to perch because there was water all over the surface of the earth, so it returned to Noah's ark. He reached out his hand, and he took the dove and brought it back to himself into the ark. He waited 7 more days. Excuse me. You're gonna hear a lot of clearing in my throat because I just woke up. And I've been sick. The number 7 is actually used a lot in the Bible. I've noticed that. Let's see. So he waited 7 more days and sent out a dove from the ark. And when the dove returned to him in the evening, there in its beak was a freshly plucked olive leaf. Then Noah knew that the water had receded from the earth. He waited 7 more days and sent the dove out again. But this time it did not return to him. By the first day of the first month of Noah's 601st year, the water had dried up from the earth. Noah then removed the covering from the ark and saw that the surface of the ground was dry. By the 27th day of the second month, the earth was completely dry. And then God said to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, the birds, the animals, and all the creatures that move along the ground, so they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful, increase in number on it." So Noah came out, and together with his sons and his wives and his sons' wives, all the animals and all the creatures that move along the ground and all the birds, everything that moves on land, came out of the ark, one kind after another. And then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and taking some of all the clean animals and clean birds, he sacrificed burnt offerings on it. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, "Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood, and never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done. As long as the earth endures, seedtime and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease." So, in 8:6-16, occasionally Noah would send out a bird out to test the earth to see if it was dry. But Noah didn't get out of the ark until God told him to. He was waiting for God's time. God knew that even though the water was gone, the earth was not dry enough for Noah and his family to venture out. What patience Noah showed, especially after spending an entire year inside a boat. We, like Noah, must trust God to give us patience during those difficult times. We must wait. Countless times through the Bible, we see God showing his love and his patience towards men and women in order to save them. Although he realizes that their heart are evil, he continues to try to reach them. When we sin or fall away from God, we will surely deserve to be destroyed by his judgment. But God promised never again to destroy everything on earth until the judgment day when Christ returns to destroy evil forever. Now, every change of season is a reminder of his promise. To demand an accounting means that we didn't get there yet. Hold on. Let me retrack. Okay. So, Genesis 9, repopulating the earth. God's covenant with Noah. Then God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth. The fear and dread of you will fall on the beasts of the earth and on all the birds on the sky, on every creature that moves along the ground, and on all the fish in the sea. They are given into your hands." My dog's about to bust in. I apologize. The fear and dread of you. Hold on. Sorry about that. My dog and cat were wrestling in the hallway, and I had to go handle it. Okay, where was I? All right, repopulating the earth. And then God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth. The fear and dread of you will fall on the beasts of the earth and all the birds in the sky, on every creature that moves along the ground, and all the fish in the sea. They are given into your hands. Everything that lives and moves about will be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, I now give you everything. But you must not But you must not eat meat that has its lifeblood still in it. And for your lifeblood, I will surely demand an accounting. I will demand an accounting from every animal and from each human being too. I will demand an accounting for the life of another human being." So 9 of 5, to demand an accounting means that God will require each person to account for his or her actions. We cannot harm or kill another human being without answering to God. A penalty must be paid. Justice will be served. Here God explains why murder is so wrong. To kill a person is to kill one made in God's image. Because all human beings are made in God's image. All people possess the qualities that distinguish them from animals: morality, reasons, creativity, and self-worth. When we interact with others, we are interacting with beings made by God, beings to whom God offers eternal life. God wants us to recognize his image in all people. The story of Noah's life involves not one but two great tragic floods. The world in Noah's day was flooded with evil. The number of those who remained the God of creation, perfection, and love had dwindled to one. Of God's people, only Noah was left. God's response to the severe situation was a 120-year-long last chance, during which he had Noah build a graphic illustration of the message of his life. He gave them 120 years to get their stuff together, and they couldn't do it, and they thought Noah was crazy, and they didn't listen. Nothing like a huge boat on dry land to make a point. For Noah, obedience meant a long-term commitment to a project. Many of us have trouble sticking to any project, whether or not it's directed by God. It is interesting that the length of Noah's obedience was greater than the lifespan of people today. That is insane. He had more time to do stuff. We waste too much time. The only comparable long-term project is our very lives. But perhaps this is one great challenge Noah's life gives us: to live in an acceptance of God's grace, an entire lifetime of obedience and gratitude. Strengths and accomplishments. He was the only follower of God left in his generation. He was the second father of the human race. He was a man of patience, consistency, and obedience. First major shipbuilder, and Noah got drunk and embarrassed himself in front of his sons. That was one of his weaknesses. Lessons from his life. God is faithful to those who obey him. God does not always protect us from trouble, but cares for us in spite of trouble. Obedience is a long-term commitment. We may be faithful, but our sinful nature always travels with us. Vital statistics. We're not told how far from the Garden of Eden people had settled. Occupation: farmer, shipbuilder, and preacher. Relatives. Grandfather Methuselah, father Lamech, sons Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Key verse. Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Genesis 6:22. Whoever sheds human blood, by humans shall their blood be shed, for in the image of God has God made mankind. In Genesis 9:7. As for you, be fruitful and increase in number, multiply the earth and increase upon it. Then God said to Noah and to his sons with him, I now establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that was with you, every living creature on earth. I establish my covenant with you. Never again will all life be destroyed by the waters of a flood. Never again will there be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the sign of the covenant I am making between me and every living creature with you, a covenant for all generations to come. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and earth. Whenever I bring clouds over the earth and the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you and all the living creatures of every kind. And never again will the waters become a flood to destroy all life. Now notice he didn't say there wouldn't be floods at all, that they wouldn't destroy lives. He's saying he will never flood the entire earth to destroy all life. Whenever the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all living creatures of every kind of earth. So God said to Noah, This is a sign of the covenant I have established between me and all life on earth. So in 9:8-17, Noah stepped out of the ark into the earth devoid of human life, but God gave him a reassuring promise. This covenant had 3 parts. Never again will a flood do such destruction. As long as the earth remains, the season will always come as expected. A rainbow will be visible when it rains as signs to all that God will keep his promise. The earth's order and season are still preserved, and rainbows still remind us of God's faithful to his word. Noah and the great hero of faith got drunk, a poor example of godliness to his sons. Perhaps the story is included to show us that even godly people can sin and that bad influence affects their families. Although the wicked people had all been killed, the possibility of evil still existed in the hearts of Noah and his family. Ham's mocking attitude revealed a severe lack of respect for his father and for God. 9:25. This verse has been wrongfully used to support racial prejudice and even slavery. Noah's curse, however, wasn't directed towards any particular race, but rather the Canaanite nation, a nation God knew would become wicked. A curse was fulfilled when the Israelites entered the promised land and drove the Canaanites out. See the book of Joshua. So, the sons of Noah. The sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These were the 3 sons of Noah, and from them came the people who were scattered over the whole earth. Noah, a man of the soil, proceeded to plant a vineyard. When he drank some of its wine, he became drunk and lay uncovered inside his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw that his father was naked and told his 2 brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it across their shoulders, and then they walked in backward and covered their father's naked body. Their faces were turned the other way so that they would not see their father naked. When Noah awoke from his wine and found out what his youngest son had done to him, he said, "Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers." He also said, Praise be to the Lord, the God of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Shem. May God extend Japheth's territory, and may Japheth live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be the slave of Japheth. After the flood, Noah lived 350 years. Noah lived a total of 950 years, and then he died. He lived almost 1,000 years. I'm actually surprised that Noah wasn't one of the people that God just ascended, because there was only 2. Okay, so the tables of nations. This is the account of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's sons, who themselves had sons after the flood. The Japhethites. I'm going to murder all these names. All these names. I'm just going to say them all wrong, so I apologize in advance. And the Japhethites, the sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Teras. The son of Gomer, Ashnek, Rephath, and Togar. I know I'm going to lose you guys in these genealogies, but they're actually really important. The sons of Javan, Elisha, Tarish, the Kittites, and the Kittites, and the Redanites. From these, the maritime people spread out into their territories by their clans with their nations, each of its own language. The Hamites, the son of Ham, Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan, the sons of Cush, Seba, Havilah, Sapta, Rama, and Septa, the sons of Rama, Sheba, and Dedan. Cush was the father of Nimrod, who became a mighty warrior on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. That is why it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. The first centers of his kingdom were Babylon, Uruk, Akkad, and Calneh in Shinar. From the land he went to Assyria, where he built Nineveh, Reboth, Kala, and Rezin, which is between Nineveh and Kala, which is the great city. Egypt was the father of the Ludites, Ammonites, Libabites, and Nephilites. Where do they come up with these names, guys? Whew! Lost my place. Canaanites. Okay, so Canaan was the father of Sidon, his firstborn, and of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Havitites, Architites, and Sinites, Arvidus, Zarmadus, and I feel like I'm speaking in tongues. Later, the Canaanite clans scattered, and the borders of Canaan reached from Sidon towards Gerar as far as Gaza, and then towards Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, as far as Lasha. These are the sons of Ham by their clan and languages in their territory and nations. The Semites, sons born from Shem, whose older brother was Japheth. Shem was the ancestor of all the sons of Eber. The sons of Shem, Elam, Ashur, Aparax, Lud, and Aram. The sons of Aram, Uz, Hul, Gether, and Meshech. Apex is the father of Shelah, and Shelah is the father of Eber. Shem's descendants were called Semites. Abraham, David, and Jesus descended from Shem. Ham's descendants settled in Canaan, Egypt, and the rest of Africa. Japheth's descendants settled in the most part of Europe and Asia Minor. Who was Nimrod? Not much is known about him except that he was a mighty hunter. But these people with great gifts can become proud, and that is probably what happened with Nimrod. Some considered him the founder of the great godless Babylonian Empire. Okay, so we're almost out of the genealogy. Sorry, guys. Two sons were born of Eber, one named Peleg, because in his time the earth was divided. His brother was named Joktan. Joktan was the father of Almadad, Shaleth, Hazarmaveth, Jerah, Hadaram, Uzal, Diklah, Obal, Abimah, Sheba, Ophir, Evilah, and Jobab. All of these were the sons of Joktan. The region where they lived stretched from Mesha towards Sephar in the eastern hill country. These are the sons of Shem by their clans and languages in their territories and nations. These are the class of Noah's sons, according to their lines of descent within their nations, from the nations spread out over the earth after the flood. The plain between Tigris and the Euphrates River offer a perfect location for the city and tower that reached the heavens. So it was, I don't know if you can see this, and it's probably backwards, but Babel is right about in there. Now, the Tower of Babel. Now the whole world had one language and a common speech. As people moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. They said to each other, "Come, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They used brick instead of stone and tar for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth." That's actually funny. They kind of foreshadowed their own demise, because they were scattered everywhere, but not in the way they wanted. From Shem to Abraham. This is the account of Shem's family line. 2 years after the flood, when Shem was 100 years old, he became the father of Eperex. And after he became the father of Eperex, Shem lived 500 years and had other sons and daughters. When Eperex had lived 35 years, he became the father of Shelah. And after he became the father of Shelah, Eperex lived 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Shelah had lived 30 years, he became the father of Eber, and after he had become the father of Eber, Shelah had lived 403 years and had sons and daughters. So they're repopulating the earth again like Adam and Eve did. So this is like the reboot of the new genealogy, even though we still come from Adam and Eve, because Noah came from Adam and Eve. When Eber had lived 34 years, he became the father of Peleg. And after he became the father of Peleg, Eber had lived 430 years and had sons and daughters. When Peleg had lived 30 years, he became the father of Reu. And after he became the father of Reu, Peleg had lived 209 years and had other sons and daughters. When Reu had lived 32 years, he became the father of Serug. And after he became the father of Serug, Reu had lived 207 years and had other sons and daughters. When Serug had lived 30 years, he became the father of Nor, and after he became the father of Nor, he lived 200 years and had other sons and daughters. When Nahor lived 29 years, he became the father of Terah, and after he became the father of Terah, Nor lived 119 years and had other sons and daughters. After Terah had lived 70 years, he became the father of Abraham, Nor, and On. Bro, all these people having babies at such an old age. And you notice too, when they have when they're basically, because this is kind of like the reboot of creation, kind of in Adam and Eve, they were mostly like 900 years, and then he cursed it down to like 120, 130. Then he reboot, floods the world, has to repopulate, so people have to live longer again. That would make sense. But instead of like almost 1,000 years, it's like cut in half. So they're living like 400 to 500 years. That's wild. Okay, so in 1103, the brick used to build this tower was man-made and not as hard as stone. The Tower of Babel was most likely a ziggurat, a common structure of Babylon at the time, most often built as temples. Ziggurats look like pyramids with steps or ramps leading up to the sides. Ziggurats stood as high as 300 feet and were often just as wide. Thus, they were a focal point of the city. People in this story built their tower as monuments to their own greatness, something for the whole world to see. The Tower of Babel was a great human achievement, a wonder of the world, but it was a monument to the people themselves rather than to God. We may build monuments to ourselves, expensive clothes, big houses, fancy cars, important job, to call attention to our achievements. These may not be wrong in themselves, but when we use them to give us identity and self-worth, they take God's place in our lives. We are free to develop in many areas, but we are not free to think we have replaced God. What towers have you built in your life? 11:10 to 27. Here in 10 to 22 to 31 appears a list of Shem's descendants who were blessed. Because of that blessing, Shem's line became Abraham and the entire Jewish nation, which would eventually conquer the land of Canaan in the days of Joshua. Abraham grew up in Shadowland. So, if you can see it, it's kind of backwards, but Shadowland is right there. I love that it shows the actual genealogy. Because these are real places, guys. You can visit. You can walk where Jesus walked. Where Noah walked. Where Moses walked. Wouldn't even know it. So, the story of Abraham. Hold on, let me see. Did I skip ahead? Let's see. Tower of Babel. Okay, I was there. Okay, yeah. The story of Abraham. Despite God's swift judgment of sin, most people ignored and continued to sin, just like humans. But a handful of people really tried to follow him. One of these was Abraham. God appeared to Abraham one day and promised to make his descendants to a great nation. Abraham's part of the agreement was to obey God. Could you imagine? God just appeared to you one day. I wish. That would be so cool. What a lucky man. God appeared to Abraham one day and promised to make his descendants into a great nation. Abraham's part of agreement was to obey God. Through sharp testing and incident that almost destroyed his family, Abraham remains faithful to God. Throughout this section, we discover how to live a life of faith. Sorry, that made me a little emotional. Good morning, old timer. You know, it's funny, you called me Wildcat. That was actually my school mascot, was Wildcats. um that made me emotional. Could you imagine, like, being so great? It is Wildcats. Woo. How awestruck you would be. Thank you. You have a blessed day too. Thank you, Maddie. Um, how awestruck you would be if God just appeared to you. Like, how lucky, how blessed is Abraham. Um, Sorry, that just like really got me. So God promises a nation to Abraham. The Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you." What's the last verse that you read as you read it? Well, I'm in Genesis 12 now. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. Oh, Corinthians 13:12. Actually did a video. If you go on my either YouTube or TikTok, it's called, I think it's called Corinthians Face to Face. It was after I was crying and praying in the shower. I got a verse in my head that I can't remember the exact verse now because I'm like still waking up, but it's like I have it documented. It's in my videos. And it came to me. It actually corrected itself. It said like Corinthians and then 4th Corinthians or something. I can't remember. But I was like, yeah, okay, because I don't have the Bible memorized, and it definitely correlated with what I was praying about. So I would go back and go through my videos, see if you could find it, but it's called Face to Face, I believe. It's cool when you're praying and something correlates with God. I've had God show up in like a lot of weird ways. I wish that I could see him face to face. And it actually told me, and not yet. I'm gonna get emotional. Drink some coffee to cover the emotions. So God showed up in a lot of different ways for me. Sometimes it feels like he's quiet, and sometimes there's just like too many coincidences to count. I actually thought about doing a video on my whole testimony and journey through my life. But these blessings, sorry, I'm like getting over a cold, and I'm so congested in the morning. But I had to move from one state to another for my kids, because I felt like God put it on my heart to move me away from that place. And so when I moved here, I basically had nothing. I actually moved on my girls' like 4th birthday, the night of their birthday, and I had no money. I actually couldn't afford the bigger U-Haul, so we had to like leave a lot of stuff. I had to leave my couch. We were sleeping on mattresses, And luckily their one grandmother, the next day we went up to the Dollar Tree and bought some stuff for their birthday. And she left. I ran out of shampoo, I ran out of toilet paper. And I got on my knees and I just said, Lord, I need you right now. I'm struggling. If this is what you wanted for us, I need your help financially. So I had to call the Goodwill because the school that they were going to had to have uniforms, and I didn't realize that, and I couldn't afford the uniforms. So I called the Goodwill and they gave me a $25 voucher and or sorry, $75 voucher. And I was like, awesome. So I walked up with my two girls. My boy stayed home at the time. I can't remember. Maybe he might have been there too. This was over a decade ago. And oh God, how God has grown me. So I went and I got their uniforms, and my car was acting up at the time. So we actually had to walk. It was about a mile walk, and we're walking back, and we have a bag full. And keep in mind, in all of this, we didn't know anyone. We didn't even really talk to our neighbors. No one knew our situation. We never told anyone that we were struggling. Okay. Um so we're walking back from the Goodwill, and this man gets out of the van and walks up to me, and as a woman with 3 kids, like, it made me nervous at first, but hands me $100 bill and literally says to me, God wanted you to have this, after I had been praying an hour ago about finances. And I cried and I thanked him. And later we went back up to the Dollar Tree. We got shampoo, we got, toilet paper, like all our essentials. We got like all our kitchen stuff we needed. And then we had a little tiny bit left over. And we were like, well, let's get the kids a treat. It's been a hard week, so let's go to Burger King. And when we were there, this guy came up and was like, can I get your kids something? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, sure, so he got them ice cream, and I thought that was really kind of him. And we went back home, and the next day I called the Goodwill again because, again, we couldn't afford the big U-Haul, so we didn't have any couches. We had to leave our couch behind. And they gave me another $75 voucher for a couch. So I walked to the Goodwill again. And the guy who was at the Burger King the night before was there and handed me a $150 grocery store gift card for food. And then I didn't have a vehicle to bring the furniture back, so he offered to pick up my couch and bring it to my house. What I didn't know was that he was friends with my neighbor next door. And I get a knock on my door from my neighbor, and he said, hi, I'm so-and-so's friend, and he told me that you guys are new in town and stuff. There's gonna be cops knocking on your door. Don't freak out. It's like a Secret Santa with cops. They didn't know that I couldn't really afford a big Christmas that year. They also didn't know that I had to leave my tree behind, all my Christmas decorations. I had literally had nothing. No one knew this, okay, except for God and my family in the house. And I was like, oh my goodness, thank you. So yeah, cops came. It was a roughest year and the best year. Like, the blessings just came, bam, 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 bam. So I got the $100. I was able to get what I needed. I got my couch, I got my furniture, my kids got their uniforms. The cops dropped off like 2 bags of Christmas toys. And then my neighbor again comes over and he said, my son wanted you to have this, and gives me like a $350 gift card between like two gift cards for groceries again. So I could buy Christmas dinner. And then he bought me a tree, a live tree. He didn't know I didn't have a tree, which, like, that's weird. And, like, he could have wasted money if I did have a tree. I don't know. That was just, but I needed it. And then he realized I didn't have any decorations for the tree. So then he left and came back and gave me more decorations for the tree. Okay? And I'm praising God through this whole thing. I mean, he answered all my prayers within 2 weeks. I mean, we had my kids were very young at the time, but they had a really good Christmas that year. And then it's funny too, because when the other place I was living, I got involved with a church that I really, really loved. And it's hard to find a church that fits you. And I was really sad to leave it. And I prayed to God. I was very specific. I said I wanted a charismatic church. I want something with a live worship band because I love singing and worshiping. And I wanted to be like, you know what I mean, laid back, but in the word. And literally, I Google it and the first church that pops up is like right around the block. Like, oh, that was another prayer. It had to be close enough to walk to. And it was literally right around the block. I went the first time and it was literally what I asked for. And I never even tried a different church. And I've been there going almost 9 years. I've been going there almost 9 years. So that's my little blessings that God gave me. So yeah. Okay, so hold on, backtrack. So in 12, 2 and 3, I will make your name great and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the people on the earth will be blessed through you. So Abram went, and as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he set out to Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out to the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. Abram traveled through the land as far as the site of the great tree Morah, Shishim, and at the time the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offsprings I will give this land. So he built an altar there to the Lord, and who had appeared to him. From there he went on towards the hills of Bethel, and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west, and Ai, it looks like Ai, that's weird, Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. And then Abram set out and continued toward Negev. Abraham in Egypt. Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine was severe. As he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife, and they will kill me but let you live. Say you are my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you. When Abram came into Egypt, and the Egyptians saw that Sarai was a beautiful woman, and when the Pharaoh's officials saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken into his palace. He treated Abram well for her sake, and Abram acquired sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. But The Lord inflicted serious disease on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife Sarai. So Pharaoh summoned Abram. "What have you done to me?" he said. "Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister so that I would take her to be my wife? And now then, here is your wife. Take her and go." And then the Pharaoh gave the orders to Abram to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything he had. God promised to bless Abram and make him great, but God had one creation. Abram had to do what God wanted him to do. This meant leaving his home and friends and traveling to a new land where God promised to build a great nation for Abram's family. Abram obeyed, walking away from his home for God's promise of even greater blessings in the future. God may be trying to lead you to a place of great service and usefulness for him. Don't let the comfort and security of your present position make you miss God's plan for you. God planned to develop a nation of people he would call his own. He called Abram from the godless, self-centered city of Ur to the fertile region of Canaan, where God-centered moral nation could be established. Though small in dimension, the land of Canaan was the focal point for the most of the history of Israel, as well as for the rise of Christianity. This small land, given to one man, Abram, has had a tremendous impact on world history. Abram built an altar to the Lord. Altars were used in many religions, but for God's people, altars were more than places of sacrifice. For them, altars symbolized communion with God and commemorated notable encounters with him. Built of rough stones and earth, altars often remained in place for years as continual reminders of God's protection and promises. Abram regularly built altars to God for two reasons: for prayer and worship, and as reminders of God's promise to bless him. Abram couldn't survive spiritually without regularly reviewing his love and loyalty to God. Building altars helped Abram remember that God was the center of his life. Regular worship helps us remember what God desires and motivates us to obey him. When famine struck, Abram went to Egypt, where there was food. Why would God allow a famine in the land where he had just called Abram? This was a test of Abram's faith, and Abram passed. He didn't question God's leading when facing this difficulty. Many believers find that when they determine to follow God, they immediately encounter great obstacles. The next time you face such a test, don't try to second guess what God is doing. Use the intelligence God gave you, as Abram did when he temporarily moved to Egypt, and wait for new opportunities. 12:11-13. Abram, acting out of fear, asked Sarai to tell a half-truth by saying she was his sister. She was his half-sister, but she was also his wife. See 20:12. Abram's intent was to deceive Egyptians. He feared that if they knew the truth, they would kill him to get to Sarai. She would have been a desirable addition to the Pharaoh's harem because of her wealth, beauty, and potential for political alliance. As Sarai's brother, Abram would have been given a place of honor. As her husband, however, his life would have been in danger because Sarai could not enter Pharaoh's harem unless Abram was dead. So Abram lost faith in God's protection even after all God had promised him, and told a half-truth. This shows how lying compounds the effects of sin. When he lied, Abram's problems multiplied. Thanks, old timer. Have a good day. All right, well, that's about my Q2. That was the end of Genesis 12. I actually got through a lot today. I did 8-12, I think. Alrighty. I got work later. I'm exhausted. I just want to pray over you guys to have a good and peaceful day, to send healing and wisdom your way. In Jesus' name, amen.